The Olympics, Brakken. The friggin' Olympics, Brakken.
Have you ever been more fired up to train in your life after watching races?
After the men's 1500 final, Brakken, I had an adrenaline dump like I haven't had in years, to the point where I was physically shaking, pacing in my living room with some sort of weird sensation, like out-of-body experience. It sent me through the roof. I haven't had something do that to me in years. It's not a joke.
So the race aside, right? The race was awesome. The post-race experience was one of the coolest post-race experiences I've ever had in a race that wasn't my own. So the race finishes. We finished race brain 4 minutes before the race started. We hit end and we all ran to our TVs to watch it because we wanted to watch it live. And so like you skid into the couch, turn it on. Braden, Ayla, Mira, Lisa, my dad's over to watch it, and myself. My mom's watching it at her house next door. Race ends. 10 seconds later, we hear our screen door slam. My mom's coming in. Did you see this? Then my phone starts. My uncle's texting me. Jack, Rich is like, we just watched it. Amy's practically in tears at the end. Amy's his wife. Like, Then I start getting message. Basically, anyone in my life who's into running and knows I will be watching is texting. Ross Weimer called me like 45 seconds after the race ended. He's at work. He watched it in his office at work. He's like, did you watch that? It was just like this pure moment where all the Americans who liked running in my life were all like unable to contain it and had to talk to each other and just confirm that they all just witnessed the same thing.
22 texts is what I had when I opened my phone. I had to set my
22?
phone down. I watched it live. I was putting off work. I'm like, I'm pretty, like when I'm working, I'm pretty focused. And I'm like, I'm going to take a break. And I did it. And I'm like, I was lost. So like, I just had to get back to work because I had to get some stuff done before going to the gym. Anyways, so I set my phone aside, picked it up a half an hour later, 22 text messages alone. So that shows the same thing happened to me.
I didn't even bother messaging you because I knew you'd be dealing with the same thing and that we'd catch up later. But
yeah.
I feel like a nerd a lot because I read and listen and watch way too much running, and I care too much about it. It's a sport, right? It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it matters. And it was like this pure moment where all the other nerds came out of the woodwork and made me feel not so bad about being such a nerd about this thing.
It was so interesting, though. And let's talk about the races up to this point. So, folks, we're recording on a Thursday morning. So anything that happens Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we don't have intel on, but we can talk about Wednesday and prior. The interesting thing on the men's 1500, so if you haven't watched yet, I'm sure there's a handful of you somehow listening that haven't seen it. The American Cole Hawker wins in non-arguably an upset. If you knew enough and watched his trajectory, you could argue like, yeah, I saw it coming, but could you really? Like, it was an upset. And Nagus ends up third, almost taking Kerr at the line. If Nagus had another meter, he would have been second. Jakob Ingebrigtsen falls to fourth, doesn't end up on the podium at all. And that story has yet to be told because now he's in the 1500. And in the last two world champs, Jakob Ingebrigtsen the 5,000. What did I say?
1,500.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, 5,000.
We knew what you meant.
In the last two world champs, Jakob Ingebrigtsen has been upset in the 1,500, has lost to Jake Whiteman 2 years ago, Josh Kerr last year, and then comes back and wins the 5,000 as his like redemption race. And so will he do that at the Olympics? Who knows? It's such a cool story to watch, and the competition is so good. But what I'm getting at is the takes of people watching the race was interesting, and the brief text interactions. Jakob messed up. He shouldn't have done what he did. He went out too hard. Or Cole's lucky that he has a kick because he was never in contention. Or like all of these things.
That's a bad take. I can understand the Jakob. That's a bad take. He was in contention the whole time, and there's no such thing as being lucky you have a kick.
Well, right. And then you break it down and you say, well, you guys have to understand, like, I respect Jakob Ingebrigtsen the most after that race because of the way he ran it. Because he believes, although all these athletes are fast, and all of them have kicks that none of us could compete with. They're all so good, and Jakob is a strength runner. And Jakob and his coaches, and I'm sure whoever else is his influences, it's as simple as, if I leave it to a kick, I will lose. I can't pack run and rely on my kick. It's not a guarantee. My only option is to run with my balls out front and take the kick out of their legs so I'm alone when I cross the finish line. And he had like a 5-meter gap with 600 meters to go. He did what he needed to do to win, and I don't know if he would have won. I don't think he could have won another way. And so he does that. The rest of the field is just too good right now. They're just too good. They hung on after a race that Jakob Ingebrigtsen made and suddenly still found themselves in contention when it was time to kick, and it was over for Jakob. But, like, he's the headline. Cole Hocker finished the job, and I couldn't be more pumped. But do you agree with that take? I mean, I don't know what other take there would be.
Yeah, I do. The problem is he has the highest potential for an overall fast time there.
Correct.
But he requires someone to do part of the work for him, because no one can run your absolute fastest leading every step of the way, which is why in a Diamond League or even with Wavelight pacing, he can just run faster than anyone else. But the gap from him to everyone else is less than a second. And I believe that the cost of leading an entire race start to finish is probably that 1 second. And so his only route is to get a second ahead, but the field is just so good that he couldn't quite snap that line, connecting them to him.
Yep.
And when he couldn't quite get away, it's over. And that was my general takeaway from the 10K so far, the 3,000 meter steeple, the 1,500, is that, talking on the men's side, but the women's side as well, I suppose, is that the field isn't getting dropped anymore, even at fast paces. Everyone has gotten so fit and good, and they've all spent their years since the last championships working to be able to be there at the end, that they're getting to the end. And that was always the big thing. There's a bunch of people like, I could kick at the end if I was there, but I can't get there. Cole Hocker spent the last year and a half becoming a sub 13 5K runner. You know, these people are spending time working on being there at the end, and they all were there at the end now.
Yep.
You just can't. There's no one head and shoulders above the world in terms of being able to self-run away from everyone else.
And it's funny, talk about personalized training, the right script for Cole Hocker to win. And he put this together perfectly with the periodization of his training and his lead in, and he probably timed it as perfectly as you could, right? But the answer for Cole Hocker to become an Olympic champion was to focus on strength running, 3K, 5K. He ran a fast 2 mile, right? Still got smoked by Josh Kerr and Grant Fisher in that race. Smoked relative, but he was seconds behind. And the answer for Jakob now is to go find speed, because what's left for him to find? His strength running is fantastic. And it's interesting that if the opposite ends of the spectrum, that would lead to maybe potentially the same result. But once you consider Jakob a strength runner and Cole, let's call him a speed runner, and yet different takes is what would be required for the win. And I just find it's just interesting and nuanced to see how it played out. What do you think?
Yeah.
So if you follow Cole Hocker's trajectory, he was injured last year largely, came out of the gates running slow. I mean, he was running 10 seconds slower in the 1,500 4 months ago. That's astronomical. Mm-hmm. And then to progress, can you make sense of it, how it came to be?
Yeah, if you take out his injury, he went from a guy who kicked to 331 in the last Olympics.
I think he was 6th.
And took top 5.
I think he was 6th, yeah.
And did it as the guy with the least amount of endurance in the field. And now he came in, and he had a great quote before, maybe after trials, but he said, I did that as a 13, 12, 5K runner. Now I'm sub 13. What am I going to do now? And it was very clear. That's how he looked at his skill set. I didn't have the strength to get to the end. now I have as much strength as anyone other than Jakob. I think he probably has the second or third best 5K PR in the 1500 field now. And to him, that's all he needed to know. No one can run it out of me now, and no one can kick with me. And his quote was, if I stay healthy, I don't think anyone can beat me, certainly not in the United States. Mm-hmm. And he just believed so firmly in that. So, yeah, it makes sense. His quick return from injury, I don't know if it was really quick, but that was the most surprising part, that he went from looking like we may not make the Olympics probably 4 months ago to winning the Olympics. That's crazy.
Yeah, and you look at the start line, and I know we shouldn't talk about looks, but he's the most unassuming looking guy on the start line, stature-wise, structure-wise, his stride even. Like, of course, he's a very biomechanically efficient. They all are at this level. Player. He runs exactly like a soccer player. You got the man bun. There's nothing about him that jumps out at you except it's what's between his ears, and clearly he's got a great engine. I've never seen somebody, and we'll move on to other races here, but I've never seen somebody reach with their arms in their final kick like him. His arms pulled him to the victory. I've never seen an athlete run with, maybe in the 8 and the 4, you'll see him do it in the home stretch, but somehow he pulled himself through space with his arms to propel the finish line. I don't know how else to describe it. How would you describe it?
Yeah, I don't think I can any other way. It's like he's limited in his running by his form. I don't know how much like he'll never have the optimum running form, and that may limit him in like a 5K. But at the end of a race, a lot of the pretty runners are limited in their sprinting because they only have a running form.
Right.
And they just can't run their running form any faster, whereas he switches to like every single cell in his body is flailing and fighting for more speed. And even though it's not efficient to do that thing, when only speed is required, he's not leaving anything on the table. And I don't know if that's a great scientific explanation, but he switches into full-on thrashing mode, where other people are, like Jakob, is just running his 5K pace, but slightly quicker. This form doesn't change ever.
Yeah, I think Cole's eyelids and earlobes even burned with lactate by the time he crossed that finish line. He was recruiting everything. And then down the field, Yair Nagus third, and then, I mean, the biggest problem in the entire field for the next 15 years is going to be Hobbs Kessler. He is outperforming himself time and time again at 21 years old to take fifth and be in contention for the medals till the home stretch. Now he's through to the rounds on the 800. It's just like, what is going to happen with that kid? Like, U.S. distance running, folks, you can look back over time and you can talk about the U.S. contingency versus the Europeans versus the African contingency. We've had some good times over the years, and we will continue to do so, but I think it looks about as promising as it has in decades compared to the world. And it's fun to watch on both men's and women's side.
It's kind of unreal. And we're spoiling everything, but just on the track on the men's side, of the finals that have been run, U.S. men have won the 100, the 400, the 1500, and we've taken second in the 3K steeple and the 10K. It's kind of outrageous, the success that they're having here. And what this all makes me think is that Jakob is the world's best 10K runner. And they've talked for years that the 5K or the 10K is probably his best, but he just loves the 1500 and he sees it as the more prestigious event. And so he's going to keep banging his head against it until he owns the world record. And I believe he can get the world record. And he may retire with the world record and not having won a single global championship from here on out in the 1500. But then you move up to the 5K and the story switches. He's the fastest person there and he's never been outkicked. And he may never get outkicked in the 5K. It's very interesting how the tail of the tape is that he doesn't have enough finishing speed for the 1500 to win from any position. And no one can win against him in a 5K because he has too much finishing speed. It's very interesting how his strength plays out in the 5K. I think he could win the 5K, 10K double and not really even be challenged because no one can close like him and no one has the threshold that he has. But he just won't give up the 1500 completely.
And he's never run a 5K world champion or a 5K world champs on fresh legs. I mean, he's always done it after 3 rounds of the 1500.
He's never lost one.
Right, and the final, we haven't even seen him in a big race like
Crazy.
that fresh. And then you watch him wipe the floor with everybody at the European cross-country championships every year. He doesn't just kick home. He grinds them down and wins by 15 seconds against some of these athletes who are podium contenders on the track in the 5K and 10K. And he goes to cross, which is a 10K on grass, and he wipes the floor with them. He owns the race from the back early and then just stretches them out from the front till nobody can hang. So I agree with you. I want to talk about one thing. We got to talk about all these races. We can talk about this for the whole time. I don't even care because I have a lot to say. I had somebody ask, and I want to get your take. I know you guys chatted about this on Race Brain. The repechage. The repechage round. Repechage. How do you say it?
I don't. It's one of those words you read and you don't say out loud because you sound dumb. Repechage.
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 Repechage. The old repechage. I'm looking at it. The dictionary definition of repechage is, in rowing or other sports, a contest in which the best placed of those who failed to win heats compete for a place in the final. So basically, the meaning of repechage is the rest of the best. The ones who didn't get through initially, it's as literal as it sounds. We give you another try at it because you failed the first time. The repechage rounds. I don't know, maybe listeners will know. I don't recall this being in the Olympic Games or World Championships, but it could have been something that I've been overlooking. What did you guys discuss on Race Spain about the repechage, and what's the deal with that?
Well, our overall take is that we love it and it's useless. We love it in that what they've done is traditionally to get through prelims, semifinals into the finals is they take the top blank in any heat, top 2 or 3, and then the next 3 or 4 fastest total times from all the heats get through each round. And what they've done with this repechage is they just take a set number and that's it. Top 4, top 5, top 6, whatever it is. You just have to be top half of your heat to get through. And then all the people who lose get one chance to get back into the semifinal by running the repechage round. And if you can win that, you're back through. So I really like it because one of the issues with running heats based on time is that if you get to go first, or if you have to go first, your only options are to set the fastest pace possible and try to ensure that no one else touches it, or you have to win. Whereas if you're in the later heats, you've seen what the time to beat is, and now you know what's going to happen. You can all, and this is what happens. We've been at national meets where you're sitting there in the corral waiting to go next, and you're watching what's happening, and the people start talking. They ran 3:58. It was a sit and kick. If we just decide as a group to go out and run fast and we take turns leading, we will all get through to the final. And they do that and it works. And so it's unfair inherently to go based off time when everyone's running different races. So I like the fact, the biggest thing I like is that they took away time qualifiers and said, just be the top 4 or 5 and you're through. That cleans things up. I do like that.
Yeah, you did a very good job explaining that. And if you're looking, I was looking away at my phone. I got pulled up on Sports Illustrated, SI.com. I think a lot of people are wondering. So you get rid of time qualifiers and you go to all place qualifiers. It's actually a cleaner format. It leaves those who end up in the repechage round kind of lost. Like it's really a fool's errand to get through and think you're going to go to the final and then do something. But it's a pretty brief article, so I think I'll just read it. It'll take me like 30 seconds. Is that cool?
Okay.
It says, what is the...
You haven't read to us in a while.
What is the repechage round? It says, in semifinals, a certain number of top finishers in each heat qualify for the final round of an event, just as you explained, Brakken. The events historically left a few slots available for top times across the heats that did not secure automatic qualifying spots. Again, like you said, Brakken. But Paris 2024 debuts a new format that features an extra race. And so, to follow up your point, Now, instead of an additional final slots being awarded by semifinal times, an additional race, the repechage round is staged. That race determines those who fill out the rest of the slots in the final. This does a few things. One, it gives more competition to watch. So it gives us viewers another exciting race with high stakes, right? Which I agree, that's exciting. Another race to watch. It's live or die trying, and that's exciting. And then two, it may motivate top runners to give it their all in the semifinals to avoid having to race again. Three, it could, and has in the case of one U.S. hurdler, create an opportunity for some athletes to gamble on a jogged-out semifinal, putting it all out on the line in the repechage. So they're saying you could strategically not jog through your semifinal to go race.
Did you watch that?
No, but what they're outlining is you could jog your round and then go to the repechage against lesser competition and get through that way, which I never thought of. Saying I could what do you have?
So
go ahead.
Well, just to talk about that very situation, that was Freddie Crittenden, and he came in with a hamstring injury. And when he got to the prelims, his take was that I'm a day or two away from being fully healthy. And I might get through if I blast out of the blocks and hurdle hard right now, or it might set me back. But I know if I just have another day or two of rest, I'm going to be fine. And so he jogged an 18-second 110 hurdle in the prelim, banking on I'm going to be healthy. And then he went out and won the repechage 2 days later and got through healthy, and now he's in the final. So it only took like 2 days for someone to game the system.
Yep.
But you have to be very confident that you will win the repechage, or you have to be desperate. And he was a bit of both.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they gamified it. And I think it'd be, in quotes, easier to do in the shorter the events versus the longer events, just the nature of what it takes out of you. It says what does repechage mean? It's a French word that translates directly to second chance. So that makes sense. And then it says, what events have the repechage round? All hurdle events, 200, 400, 800, 1500. So it's not in the 5K or the 10K, and it's not in the 100. And then the last question they provoke is, so why not in the 100, if in the 200 and the 400? And it says, the repechage round is only in effect for the track events 200 and above. It doesn't really say why. Never mind. I'm reading it.
And my guess would be so that people don't do what Freddie did and just say, if I'm the fourth fastest person here and I may not make my semi, I will be the fastest in the repechage, and that'll get me through. That's my only guess, other than maybe people trying to time the gun.
Sure.
I'm not entirely sure.
The last
but
sentence,
I do think it's cool in theory, but it doesn't
change the end
There's
result.
no need to do it above 200 meters.
It's not going to change the result of the final. Probably the winner of the repechage round will be
maybe a 200,
dead last in the final.
Unless it makes the most sense for the hurdles. You clip a hurdle, you're in trouble, but you could still win the whole thing.
The last sentence says, instead of the repechage round in the 100 meter, it has a preliminary round before the first round. So they added a first round, like that, an extra round as a, let's get rid of people right out of the gates that don't belong, I guess. So they added a round on the front end is what they said.
Gotcha. But certainly no one wants to run an 800 or a 1500 extra in 1 week. Like if your coach sent you out to PR the mile and he said, you have to PR the mile, but we're going to run a 95% mile on Monday and a 95% mile on Wednesday, and then we're going to PR your mile on Friday. And you're like, that sounds kind of crazy, but let's try it. If he then said, and you have to run a 100% mile on Thursday as well, you know there's no way you're PRing the mile on Friday now.
Right.
Adding that all-out effort there the day before the final, you know it's a kiss of death. So I think it's fool's gold for anything above 200 meters.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I just thought it was worth, because I had seen it and not given it much attention, but you see every day there's multiple repechage races and that on it, and didn't know what to make of it. So I wanted to talk about that. Let's move on to the women's steeplechase. That final also has happened. That was a case, women's steeplechase, where simply the front African contingency, I guess one French woman, Now that I think, or was she French?
No, she was Italian.
Italian.
No, she wasn't.
She was Italian.
No, Italian was in the 5K.
I don't know. But is there anything noteworthy to talk about in the women's steeple? We'll walk through the finals that have happened.
It was another case of the reigning champ not winning. Everyone got in position, and, well, technically, the reigning world champ won, but the Olympic champ and record holder current world record holder did not win. And it was another one of those races where the fast people got out, but enough people stayed in contact that when the kicking started, someone was able to get momentum, get a run going, and then beat the favorite.
Doesn't it feel like in the steeplechase, it's almost like somebody shoots out like a cannon, and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer when you're coming on and off of those steeples? It's like the gaps go from nothing to 5 meters in the snap of a finger. And if you have the momentum, the wrecking ball that's pounding towards the finish line, it's like almost people become unstoppable. You can have a 10-second gap on the final 400 meters if things are going well for you and you're attacking, or if you're not and you're hanging on, and you see huge gaps form. The two Americans that made the final, Constance, what's her name? The blonde.
Florence Constantine? Is that right?
I believe.
I'm going to double check that name because she deserves to get it right.
Why don't you look it up? And then, what is the other woman? Help me out here. The brunette.
From BYU. Why am I blanking now?
Courtney Wayment.
Courtney Wayment.
What's her name? Constantine? Help me out so we can get it right.
I think it's Constantine. All right, I just have to pull it up here. This is embarrassing. So we have Courtney Wayment and Valerie Constantine.
Valerie Constantine.
I'm sorry, Valerie.
Valerie ran a great race and won the U.S. Olympic trials. Courtney Wayment was second, and then somebody else came in third. I forget, pretty tight. But anyways, Constantine committed to the race for the most part and hung on to the back of the front pack as long as she could. Started to slowly get dropped. Courtney kind of ran her own race, but by the end of the race, somebody like Constantine committing to the race as much as she could, live or die trying. It's the finals, of course. I mean, Constantine finished 50 meters behind the back of the stragglers. Wayment passed her on the final lap or two and still hung on to a good race. It might be Wayment's best. I think it's a PR for her. And it just goes to show, like those risks that need to be taken for an outside shot. And most of the time they're going to blow up in your face if you're not one of the heavy favorites. But on the flip side of that coin, most of these races, the world lead time hasn't been the winner of the finals. Like the person who objectively has run the fastest, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, the fastest time in the world this year, didn't win. Same goes for the steeple. And I believe the women's 5K and the men's 10K, right? Across the board. I don't think the world lead won.
No, they haven't. And this was an interesting women's steeplechase to me because the way things go are that the Ethiopians and the Kenyans just are flat out better runners than the rest of the world. And half of them don't seem to even care about being good at jumping and hurdling. Now, I shouldn't say jumping. They're excellent at jumping. They don't care about hurdling. They'll just run and do whatever they want. Kick their feet out to the side, like tuck jump over the top. They don't care. This was the best I've ever seen the continent of Africa hurdle in a championship race.
On the women's side, not
across
on the men's
the board.
side.
The worst hurdler, not on the men's side, on the women's side. On the women's side, they've upped their game. And Yavi, the one who won it, probably had the worst hurdling, which was interesting. But even her hurdling would have looked glorious 5 years ago in this women's field. And they've all cleaned up their technique, and that has taken the U.S. women right out of it. We used to hurdle our way back into the race, and we can't anymore. They have just decided, all right, we're going to clean up our form. And it's noticeable. They're way smoother than they used to be.
It's like half the women and men who jump over the hurdles, they're so fast and they rely on their running. It's like they
I just spilled
water,
right down my face and shirt.
fight milk.
Fight milk.
They literally, it's like if you were to do like an ankle grab midair, like if you're like a skateboarder and you're gonna do some trick or snowboarder, kick behind you and grab the back of the board as you're going over the hash pipe. It's like they hurdle that way. They tuck their legs up like they
The
could.
hash pipe.
They what half pipe. You know what I'm saying? They could.
Maybe a hash pipe as well.
It's legal most places. You never know. I didn't even mean to say that. Anyways, that's how the form they're using. Like they could grab their ankles on top of the steeple because they're not actually using proper hurdle form, but it looks very smooth at the same time. So it's just interesting to see that. So let's transition. Men's 10K, which is the first final of the Olympics. I know we're kind of working all over the place, but what is your take on the men's 10K?
I think it set the tone for what the Olympics have turned out to be, which is highly competitive, fast, and tactical at the same time racing. And the history of the Olympic racing is that people talk that they're going to go out fast. Maybe they do for a lap or two, and then the pace lags, and then eventually the best get up to the front and make a push for home. Somewhere between 200 meters and 1,000 meters out from the finish in these distance races. And this race was pretty honest from the get-go. And there was a train of like 20 men just hanging on and not getting dropped and running hard. But there were little surges throughout there and people battling, and people were trying to cover every move. People were desperate not to get dropped. But it was probably, from start to finish, the most engaging, entertaining 10K I've ever watched, because they raced every step of the way. And it still turned into a fantastic kick finish. And you got the best of both worlds. It was one of the best 10Ks I've ever seen, let alone at a world or Olympic championship race.
When J.J. Watt is tweeting about how epic the 10K is at the Olympics, you know it's been a decent race, right? Did you see that posted all over the place?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at,
Yeah, it made non-runners watch an entire 10K, which is really difficult to do.
Yeah. And I think it's just, I really enjoy it. Like, we can look back and talk about Matthew Centrowitz's 350 Olympic gold medal from 8 years ago or whatever it is. So slow, so tactical by their standards. We haven't really been seeing that. It's been fast and tactical, if anything, these last two Olympic cycles, especially this one. And I much prefer this one. Run fast times and see tactics come out. The men's 1500, from what I'm gathering, is the only race in which team tactics weren't in play. Meaning, I think in the 10,000 meter, there were team tactics in play. In the 5,000, well, that's yet to be, but the women's 5,000 tactics were in play. Steeple tactics were in play. All of those tactics were in play big time. Other than the men's 1500, like in the steeplechase, the men were like, or the women were like, we're going to stretch this thing out. In the 10K, it was the Ethiopians going back and forth constantly, right? And so, if one failed, it's like, we're better than everybody else, and we believe it. So let's make it an honest race and run the legs out of everybody. And I just think, like, I enjoy seeing that, honest from the gun.
Yeah. And we've seen so many people PR massively over the last few years, really since COVID. So many people that wouldn't have been considered world-class runners, even just coming out of the U.S. college system. Guys who just, and women who made big jumps as pros and would run fast times on the Diamond League or whatever it was. Well, they all showed up at the same time in these finals, especially the 10K. They all proved that they're able to do that. And the downside of running a fairly fast, even pace is that it sets a lot of people to run their PR.
Right.
And then you get a lot of people left at the end of the race who suddenly are fired up to be in a position that was beyond their wildest dreams. So if you can't get away from them, you just brought a bunch of people to the party at the end. And that's what these races have been. And the 10K was just like an extraordinary example of like 22 men just biting down and saying, I am covering every move and I'm latching on until you like force me off the track. I'm just going to hang on till the very bitter end. And if I take 20th, I don't care as long as I can get to the end. And they really I've never seen a pack that big leading into the final few laps of a championship race where the pace was fast. They were trying to drop people and everyone hung on.
Yeah. I mean, even Nico Young, who ended up, 12th or something, hung on until 6 to 800 to go probably. The end result...
26:58.
Is that it? That's almost his PR, right? Hasn't he run 26:52 or something?
I think it matches, is with tenths of it. But he ran sub 27, which is, for years, would win gold at World Championship events.
Yeah.
He got dropped with 400 to go, or 500, and ran 26:58.
Grant Fisher takes third. Cheptegei won.
I said second before.
Did he wait? Didn't he win third? Didn't he
Was I
take
wrong
bronze?
on that?
I think he got the bronze. I'm like 90% sure.
I said second. Now I feel
got
like
the
a
bronze.
fool.
And then I guess what else you need to know is that the other American contingency, Nico Young finished maybe 10 seconds back, and then Woody Kincaid just couldn't hang on fitness-wise. He hung on till he couldn't. I'm pretty sure it's bronze. Correct?
Yeah, bronze. Oh, yeah. Iragawi was up there. You're correct.
So let's move on from there to anything to say about the women's 800 meters. I have a couple things to say about the women's 800 meters.
To me, it was the men's 1,500 meters, except Jakob won. That's how it looked to me.
Explain.
Where the person who has run the best recently and consistently and has run the fastest time in the world this year and won the last world championships, got right to the front, dictated the pace, got through the 400 and got to work, and did manage to pull away from people all the way through the line. It was just like the 1,500 on the men's side, except she hung on and pulled away and won. So there were very few tactics. The best went to the front, dictated the pace, kept it fast. It was still a 156?
156, yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
157?
56.
Not slow at all, but just took care of business and proved that she's still the best in the world. And I say still, and she's low 20s. She's young, but she's been the best in the world for over a year now, which is a long time in the 800.
What Brakken is referring to is Keely Hodgkinson from Great Britain. Basically made herself equal to, or if not in the lead, pretty much out of the gates, bided her time till with about 1 lap left. It's only a 2-lap race. Took the front, commanded it, stretched it out, ran the legs out of anybody else. She knew she was the best, and she went out there and took care of it. The question I have with all of this is, and I don't want to spoil, but there have been some messy races this last day between Girma in the steeplechase. Each round of the 5,000 men's, there's been multiple falls. Okay. The Olympic committee deciding, hey, you know what? You fell, but you were at no fault, so you are going to go to the final. But you, who was a silver medalist last Olympics in this event, fell. We're not going to give you good faith, and you're not going to go. Mohamed, for example, from Canada. And so you start looking at these things, and you got to think back to, the American had one dog in the fight in the finals of the 800 meter. The collegiate from Stanford, I believe. And she stuck her nose in there, but ultimately got outclassed. Whitaker. Not the traditional prettiest of runners, right? She scoots a bit, but she's gritty and she can finish. But she got outclassed. And you got to think back, well, if in the Olympics, if somebody falls, they're still propelled to the final. Does policy need to change in the United States with our one contingency of Thing Mo falling in the final and not making the Olympic team? Do you think there's going to be any policy change after what happened and then knowing we didn't have a true dog in the 800-meter fight? Do you think it's warranted after this? Because it did cost us a medal, in my belief.
I don't know. I don't think so, because I believe our Olympic trials are seen as the ultimate embodiment of being American. That if you show up, we're not changing the rules for you. Maybe that's not American at this point. But like the theory of America, the American dream, that if you put in the work and you show up, anyone can make it. And I think that that's what they love about the trials, and what people love about it is it gives room for upsets, and they're not just going to say, oh, sorry, like you did great, but we're still going to send our favorite. I think there's an argument for it. I think you want your reigning Olympic champion to go to the Olympics, but I don't think they're going to change it, because I can't come up with an alternative system that allows you to keep the American dream alive for these athletes and give you kind of a golden pass to get back into the Olympics if you fall. So I don't know. What's your thought?
I think, a 2 auto qualifier system and a third, governing body decision option. If they feel like there is, so 2 go instead of 3. Every event is typically 3, but we say it's 2, and then we say like third most likely has the route in, but if there is an extreme circumstance, we can overrule the third place decision and replace. And I think they would have to have some more parameters around that, being, I don't know, what proven times this year or previous, world or Olympic results. But I think there's like a middle ground there.
Yeah.
For unfortunate circumstances. It's not like maybe it's just a fall contingency for the favorites. It could be as simple as that. If a favorite goes and takes 4th at the Olympic trials, like, too bad. But if it's clear that there could be a rule, it's clear that if somebody, I guess, what happens then? Then you trip on purpose in the final 100 because you're not in the top 3. Like, I suppose there's some problems there. But I don't know. That's my one optional solution.
Now, Great Britain kind of has this. They have their own standards. Hitting the Olympic standard isn't enough in Great Britain, and it actually has like a ton of haters on this system. I don't know if you've seen this, but they had, I'm going to make up a number. It's not accurate. They had 27 athletes qualify for the Olympics and not get sent because they didn't meet Great Britain's standards for going. So they met the Olympic standard and they were top 3 at trials or whatever, or however they do their system, but they didn't get sent because Great Britain has time standards to hit that are medal standards. Where if you don't show the ability to medal, they don't send you. So if you're going to be 14th place or in the marathon 40th place, you don't go.
So would they send
And
less
the
than 3?
athletes are always in.
Would they say, you know what, we don't have 3. Like, we don't have 3, so we're not sending 3 just to fill spots. That's their plan.
Yeah, but likewise, Whiteman got thrown into the 800 despite not making. He didn't make the 1500, and he had his little injury going on, but they threw him in there because he had shown potential that he could medal, and he actually withdrew. But like they will make governing body decisions based on, if we believe you can medal, we will be willing to put you in. But just because you're top 3 doesn't mean you get to go if we don't think, like, they're not going to waste funds sending you if you're not going to be in the final.
Right.
Essentially. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that they have a system they use, and it's universally hated by the athletes.
Really?
Really, because they don't feel supported. They don't feel like they're wanted. It's just like, if you're not good enough, we don't want you, even though you've met the Olympic standard. So there are other options out there, but I don't know if the U.S. would adopt it.
Yeah, and then you go to Kenya, and sure,
The real question would be, what if Noah Lyles false started in the trials? What would they do?
Oh, that's a good point too. But you go over,
or like Ryan Krauser. What if Krauser throws 3 in a row out of bounds?
Yeah.
What are they going to do?
Benjamin Rye clips a hurdle and falls when he could sleep and earn a medal, for example. Yeah, but over in Kenya, they have a trials, but then even with the trials, they might be like, you know what, we don't really care what happened at the trials. Like, we still want this guy and that guy. Like, we're not convinced. You won, but so be it. That happens all the time as well, which is very interesting. In fact, the marathon, you could argue that Kipchoge, like, is he one of their top 3 marathoners this year in the moment? But they're sending him because of his track record, right?
Right.
Just interesting. That doesn't happen here. We don't still send Matt Centrowitz because he was a champion 8 years ago.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Kipchoge. That is the race I'm most intrigued to see the result of. Now, the men's 5K is probably the race that's remaining and the women's 1500 that I'm most excited to watch the race itself.
Yeah.
But the marathon with Bekele and Kipchoge are the ones I'm most interested to see what happens. Like what truly do those two have left? Because when the fall happens, when you age as a distance runner or any athlete, it happens pretty quickly. And so have we seen that with Kipchoge, or have we seen a few off days? Like, is he going to come back and crush the marathon and just wipe the field with people? Or is this going to be like the nail in the coffin that you were the best for a decade and you're the best we've ever seen, but that time is over? And that happens to everyone, but it'll just be very telling because he's never been challenged in the Olympic marathon.
Is he 40 yet? Is he 39?
No and yes. He's one that they're fairly certain is like 3 or 4 years older than what his birth certificate says.
Oh, so what is that?
So
where does that leave him?
People think he's like 42
versus 39 or whatever it is. I know he's on the verge of 40. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know if he's 38 or 39. He's 39 right now, but people think he's at least 42, which puts his accomplishments into even like, I don't know.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Just
shows it could mean that, this is the end.
Shows you what he was born into, an unorganized chaos. This,
right.
Probably a tough go early on in his life. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's still all speculation because it hasn't happened yet. We have to talk about the men's steeplechase. Arguably, if you're an American and you're rooting for the Americans, might have been a better race than Cole Hocker winning the 1500. You could make a valid argument for the way that race went down on the excitement front, other than the fact that there was not an investment in Kenneth Rooks like there was in Cole Hocker before the race. Kenneth Rooks, there was no plans. In fact, there were a handful of athletes in the field that have run in the 750s, and I believe one in the 740s in the men's steeplechase. Kenneth Rooks' PR was like 8:10 or 8:09, 8:11, something like that. Kenneth Rooks' PR was 20 seconds or more slower than the world lead times from the year. So Kenneth Rooks wasn't on the radar, brother. In fact, Kenneth Rooks, had a great semifinal, but he didn't look dominant or anything. And in this race, was it the Ethiopians? The Ethiopians went out hard from the gun and said, we're going to it's Girma who ended up falling.
Girma is their best.
What happened was, and then you can play cleanup on this.
Go ahead.
Well, no, and then you'll play cleanup. Girma has taken second place in the last, Olympic and World Championships. He has not won. Four. Okay, 4. The Ethiopians had a guy and he's been so close. And so what it looked like was the Ethiopians said, we're not leaving it up to chance this time, Girma. We're getting you to the front, and we're going to stretch the field out, and we are going to ensure that you win. You run the legs out of the people who have beaten you previously because they've beaten you off of kicks. And so the race went out honest as heck, and it stretched the field out immediately. You could see it because there were gaps right away out of the gates. And the American Kenneth Rooks, the BYU alum, I think he's 23 or 24, pretty young still, 25 at most, right? But no older. hangs on to the back of the pack. He was in last for a lap or two. He was in second to last most of the race. And he was hanging on. It was visible. He wasn't making decisions. He was hanging on for dear life. And Brakken and I, we were talking before we hit record on this, so I'm going to kind of steal a bit of your words, but they took it out so fast and so hard that they got 2-ish laps from the finish and realized like they were hurting too. The ones who meant to hurt everybody else found themselves in a position being like, okay, now I'm really suffering here. I've paid the piper for my efforts. And the group bunched again. And with like a lap and a half or 2 laps left, suddenly Kenneth Rooks, the American, the ugliest of runners of the whole crew, the least fluid again, the guy who doesn't look the part. His legs are 2 inches shorter than the next guy on the track. Right? They are. Right? And their time and a half is big around. He just doesn't look like he'd be as fluid as the other guys, which just tells me he's such a stud and a grinder. Suddenly Kenneth Rooks, the group stops yo-yoing and bunches up, and Kenneth just keeps running the pace he was running. He's like, I'm not going to let the group stop my effort here. And Kenneth, literally, you watch it, and he just keeps going at the pace he's been going. And suddenly he goes from basically last to first in a matter of 200 meters. And when he realizes he's in the lead, he decides he's going to go all out. There is no tomorrow. And suddenly Kenneth frickin' Rooks, with like the 12th or 15th fastest time in the field, has a 5-meter lead with 300 meters to go. And he doubles down and runs the guttiest. I think he ran more gutsy than Cole Hawker did to win. And he ends up taking second place in the steeple. Unbelievable. What do you make of that race? Now play cleanup on my story. Maybe I got some things wrong there.
No, you got it. You got it all right. It's just an unbelievable race because Rooks has the look of a guy who's gone to the next level all year long. He, in trials all the way through the rounds, looked like how Hawker looked and how Grant Fisher looked. Like anytime he wanted to change gears and run away from people, he could. Mm-hmm. And then he gets to the first the round of the Olympics, and he just scoots right up on first and second place and just runs in that spot in his qualifying position all the way through the race, checks on what's going on behind him, and just stayed in there with really good world-class steeplechasers falling off the race behind him. He was never in trouble through the prelims. And so he gets through the finals looking every bit of the part, but all these races were done in slowish times. Mm-hmm. So he's looking the part, and he just seems like he has more, but he's never done more time-wise. And Girma, who is the world record holder, he's run the world record is 7:52. The 40s was on the women's side. They're in the 8:40s now. But 7:52, whereas Kenneth is like 8:10. But still, he's 18 seconds slower than what the top guys can run. And so he has the look of a guy who's the best of the rest. He can do everything he needs to do. He's the smartest racer out there. But when the real racing gets started, he's just going to get dropped because he's just physically not fast enough to stay with him. And Girma, who is the world record holder, had a 2-man escort to win this. Like you said, he's taken, I think, 4 world championship silvers. And he's never won the gold. But he's the world record holder. He's the fastest, which means he's just not quite the best sprinter at the end. And so his 2 Ethiopian teammates take turns leading, and he does not lead. And he just stays behind them, and they blast out, and they string the field out immediately, and Rooks is done. It just confirmed what I thought the whole time. He's really good, but as soon as the real racing starts, he's done. But he didn't get separated from. He got dropped off the lead, but he stayed on the train. And you called it perfectly. As soon as they got to the end, and they realized, we can't finish at this pace. It's like they went into quick preservation mode. Okay, if we can't finish this, we're going to recharge and have a kick to the end. And that was the point where Girma should have gone around and just said, I'm the fastest person here. I'm just going to go from here and try to go. But Kenneth caught back up to the pack at that point. And almost every single time that happens, when someone's in danger of being dropped and the field slows, they get reattached and they just go, sigh of relief. I'm back on, get myself back together again. And you nailed it. He said no, and he just kept his stride and ran right up to the front outside right of the field and was in it again. And then you saw him make a decision that if we're going to be here and the kicking's going to start, I'm at least getting out ahead of it. And he just went for it from 400 meters out. And he went so hard those first 100 that he couldn't possibly win the race because he wasn't going to have anything left on the home stretch. But he went so hard in that first 100 of the last lap that he set himself up for a medal. And then as it turned out, he still almost won. He took second place. Third place never caught him. It was outrageous, but he was so gutsy that he just guaranteed with that decision that he was going to medal. I've never seen something like that happen at the Olympics.
You're making me relive it. It's giving me the goosebumps. I've never seen somebody shot out like a slingshot like that. Like it was like so visible the way it happened. It's like somebody just like pushed him from the back and he was all in. It looked like his last 20-meter finishing kick and he still had 350 to go. And somehow he sustained it, got over the barriers. And then, so it was a very proud moment. I don't know the last medals. Maybe Evan Jaeger in the steeple, wasn't it? Maybe 8 years ago or so. Finished third or something. I don't recall. But
maybe second.
Yeah, and then Girma, honestly, Girma probably would have won the race the way he was charging. And he clips his knee on the last barrier. It's what happens in traffic. This third to last barrier, with about 200 to go, 250 to go. They get in tight windows. There's runners in front of you. You can't exactly time the barrier. You're also so lactic that your legs aren't necessarily doing exactly what you want them to, and you have to jump. And he clipped just the top of his kneecap, and he landed on his neck and back. I mean, going 15 plus miles per hour. And laid motionless and, unconscious or whatever on the track for minutes.
Yeah, he knocked himself out immediately.
Yeah, and so I read a comment on one of the Instagram posts. So the poor guy who's taken second, if you say 4 times it is, who looked like he was charging well enough. I think Rooks would have taken third if Girma stayed on his feet. But Rooks would have medaled either way. It wouldn't have changed how amazing his performance was. But I read a comment about I was in the front row right there on the back stretch, and Girma was laying there convulsing on the track, like in a seizure type moment. And you have to imagine clipping your knee, landing on your neck, head back, like flat out at that speed with a 200 beat per minute heart rate and a 45 respiration rate per minute, and then being whacked unconscious. Like a body to survive that, like your body's trying to process all the byproduct of such a hard effort, and then you get knocked into a mode in which you have no control over that. Like that's a very serious situation when your body is it's one thing to get knocked out when you're just standing there with a low heart rate and not in oxygen debt and up to your eyeballs in lactate. It's another thing to do it in that situation. So it was like a very concerning situation, but it sounds like as of today, he is supposedly okay. Is that what you've seen?
Yeah. Yeah, he had you see it in the NFL, you see it in fighting. He had the dangerous thing happen where his head bounced off the ground. Like it's one thing to take a head blow, but it's another when there's a whip involved. And his shoulders hit and it bounced the side of his head off the track. And so that twitching happens a lot. People get knocked out and they twitch. But yeah, your point of people don't get knocked out at 200 heartbeat very often. And then that's just a different situation. So yeah, it was really hard to see, and they didn't show much of it, but he was moving the fastest at that point. And the guy who was one spot behind him won the race.
Right.
So it's very logical that he would have been in the medals, but we've had a lot of falls. And this brings me, Kirk, to one of my takeaways from this Olympics. And it's not a new takeaway. We've been seeing this across the board, but it's been amplified again in this Olympics. And that is that the downside of super spikes is instability.
Okay.
If you're standing in a pair of regular spikes, you are flat on the ground. If you're in a pair of super spikes, they want to tip forward and they want to squish side to side a little bit. And Kirk, you have the dragonflies, which have since been replaced with an even squishier, more responsive, a bit of a foot pod, an air pod in the front of them. And you can attest that they're a little less stable. They're probably the most stable super spike, but the new ones are less stable. And I have a pair of Hokas that are less stable.
Are you talking
you see
the
it
new
even at the start line?
Are you talking the new dragon? It's the new dragonfly that's less stable than the old dragonfly. Is that what you're saying, or do they have a different model out?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't even know what the name is yet. I don't know if we've seen them. But across the board, all the spikes have their new version out for the Olympics.
Right.
And people who have worn super shoes know the feeling. They're just not as stable. They're harder to turn in. They're even hard to stand still in. And like the Alpha Flies, it's weird just to stand and walk in those shoes. And we see it at the start line. Never in the history of our lives have we seen as many distance races with people who lose their balance at the start.
Yeah, you do.
And it's because of the shoes. It's because when you get that, they all stand up, and then they take their forward lean, and the spike is designed to go with that. It's not designed to lean on the midfoot and not have any sort of roll happen, and the foam squishes a little bit. And so constantly from the 800 meters through the 10K, you see people stumbling and falling at the start line.
It's so funny
and
you
then
say
that's why
that.
so many falls are happening.
It's so funny you
Go ahead.
say that because I've been watching the starts. Like I saw Hob Kessler almost fall over himself, and I see the women lining up, and I'm like, God, everybody must just have the jitters because it's the Olympics. Like, just look at how twitchy and nervous they are. Never once did it cross my mind that a spike is meant to propel you forward, and it's designed inherently on top of the technology in it now. And that starts to make a lot more sense because you're right. If you watch now, guys, now I'm going to go back and watch actually, because I'll rewatch all these. I will 12 times by the time it's said and done. It's that first step to the line, and that front foot shuffles, like they boop. Whoops, what was that?
Yep.
Probably nerves in combination, but
And it's all
interesting point.
And it's the people for sure who don't turn their foot outwards a little bit. Anyone who's straightforward or slightly toed in, that spike just wants to roll right over that spot. And the foam gives a little bit on the outward edge because there's not as much retaining it there. So you see it across the board, Diamond League, all these big meets. But then at the Olympics, you add in extra nerves, and people are really twitchy and tippy at the start. So it's difficult to do. And you see it in Adidas a lot. Adidas are they have a different platform than the Nikes.
You gotta be a
I
toe
don't know if
runner.
you've tried them on,
You gotta be
and
a
they
4
are
foot
a little
runner
bit.
to run in those. That's how I feel.
Yeah. And they're a little tippier. So it's just interesting to watch. But then you get into these fields where, like we've talked about, everyone's in better shape. The gaps between people are less. So there's big crowds and people aren't used to it. And when someone goes down, it is really hard to catch yourself, to break your stride or clip your spikes and catch yourself in super spikes. And so a lot of these falls that wouldn't have been falls in the past or wouldn't take out 5 people, they are now, because you don't have a stable, like, think about you and your alphas. It's not as extreme in spikes, but if you were in a pair of, let's just say, Kinvaras in a road race and someone fell or a dog ran out in front of your feet versus alpha flies, which one are going to be harder to keep your feet in?
The Alpha Flies.
And it's not even close.
Yeah.
So the spikes are actually making it more likely to have incidents on the track. And it's just an interesting byproduct of this technology advancement is that people are less stable when they're running. And part of the beauty of these spikes is they allow you to bounce a little bit. You don't have to run like you're in spikes. You get to run with a little bit of an extra bounce to your stride, which also makes it harder to catch your rhythm if your stride gets broken, because you're not worrying about balancing and staying stable. The spike's doing some amount of work for you. But just an interesting byproduct. We've seen more falls than ever, and we also have the most springy, cushiony spikes we've ever seen.
I have another take on the whole most falls ever thing as well. By the way, I just looked at my phone because I was going to look something up, and guess who you and I just have a group text message from? It's just between me, you, and this person. Don't look. Who could it be? Just popped up 3 minutes ago, it says. You're not going to guess it, I don't think.
Text?
Text. Don't hurt yourself.
Hunter.
Ian Hosick.
Ian Hosick?
Yep. Don't read it now.
This is interesting. I won't. But I got a Facebook memory today. Popped up right before this. I got a notification that look back on 9 years ago. 9 years ago today was the Pac Northwest U.S. National Series Spartan Sprint. And this was the day where I beat Hobie for the first time. And so it showed the results, and it was like a 40-minute race or something like that. And it was Cody, then myself, then Hobie, and in fourth was Ian Hosick. So I just saw his name about an hour and a half ago on my phone, and a picture of us standing there at the finish line. And now we have a text going on.
Maybe the same message popped up for him, and then it jogged his memory. I was going to have another take on the number of falls, and we need to get to the 5,000 meter rounds, and then we need to also get to the women's 5,000 meter final. We still have that to get to. We haven't touched on either of those. The men's 5,000 rounds and the women's 5,000 final. It's funny, guys, listening, but we're going to talk about doing a short Olympics sort of recap BS session and then get into a topic for today. And here we are an hour 5 in, and we're still on it. So I don't know if that topic is going to be touched, and that's okay if it's not.
There will be no topic.
Well, this is the topic. We're not going to teach you much today. My other take is, so tell me this. Tell me why in the 400 meters and the 800 meters, there's only 8, sometimes 9 in the finals, in all the rounds. Why is that? What would be your best reasoning for why there's only 8 or 9, usually 8, in those rounds and finals?
Oh, because they start in lanes.
Okay.
And
what
at
else?
the Olympics and World Championships, even in the 8, they don't share lanes. And so that's the big one. But also, and they don't share lanes because it gets too crowded and there's not enough time for the race to spread out. Track position and running the shortest distance is too important in short races. And it's not like the 10K where you can run in lane 2 or 3 for half a lap and then settle in. People will refuse to do that. And so there's too much chaos on the track.
Yeah. You hinted at my point. Maybe took it halfway. And it's the fact that in those races, the margin of time distance from, within the pack is so small, which creates very bunched, tight groupings, in which is a hazard. And so it would be a hazard to have 16 people in the 800-meter final. It would almost be, dare I say, a guaranteed fall, right? It's so tight and it's so intense, and so they limit the fields to 8 or 9, right? And not that the Olympics overdoes the field size, because you'll see larger field sizes in other races, but at this level, on this platform, in the Olympics with the best of the best, if you take, how many 1,500 meter runners were there? How many 5,000? 16, 18? A lot. And the fields are so good and so bunched. Go back even to like the 80s and sometimes the 90s. Like, there was still a larger gap between talent levels or ability levels. And at this point, does a 1,500 meter field or a 5K field need to be whittled down further to prevent? Yes, you want to give everybody a chance. Okay, we'll make one more round of the 5K instead of only 2 have 3. Right? We're to the point where everybody's good enough to hang if it's not world record pace, and it leads to the same situation every single time, which is shoulder to shoulder, heel to toe, an accidental clip. It's never really on purpose. A guy goes to swerve around another guy to kick home in the last 100 meters to get his qualifying spot, and he cuts a guy off behind him he didn't even know was really right there. And the guy behind him trips, or he trips himself, and it happens. And so it has to start begging the question of, well, we draw the limit at the 800 meter. That's reasonable. Let's only send 8 or 9. And maybe visually, 8 or 10 or 12 in the 5K may not be as appealing, right? Like, what is this? We got to watch this 8 dudes run around a track for 12 and a half laps. But are we to the point where that needs to be reconsidered due to level of competition, the nature of now the placement, right? If you go from time to placement with the Repechage round, now everybody's going to bunch and they're going to place, and they don't care about time. It's more facilitating a fall given the nature of the qualifying standards now. So and you look and it's just the guys are 6 wide in the home stretch. Of course somebody's going to get clipped. And so I think that's something that needs to be considered with the new qualifying format, and then maybe drawn out further and whittled down further for finals. Maybe an extra qualifying round or 2 to try to prevent this. I mean, Mohamed in the 5,000 meters took second place in the 2020/2021 Olympics. Falls 60 meters from the finish line in an easily qualified situation, and the committee decides to not put him through still, even based on his merit, street cred, and all of that. And so I think that's like something that's going to have to be looked at, I guess. And that's my other take on the falls, is that piece right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know what the answer is. Is it limit the field initially? I think we're going to have to see the Olympic standard drop across the board on the track because people are just so much better.
Maybe that's it. That
or
could
is
be
it
the
limit
answer.
the field in the final?
Could be that simple. Drop the standard. Done.
Yeah. But the problem is, and we talk about this in hybrid racing all the time, we have the problem of the Dylan Scotts, the Pelayo Menendez, the people who wouldn't have made it and then win.
Yeah.
We have the Kenneth Rooks issue. Kenneth won a medal, but wouldn't have been in the final if
the qualifying standard was 5 seconds
let's say,
faster.
5 seconds faster. Yeah. So we don't want to remove that, the spirit of the Olympics, because there's always these fantastic upsets. Every year something happens. And so you want the Kenneth Rooks effect to still be in effect. And so I don't know what that answer really is. However, at some point, it is on the athletes to adjust. Mm-hmm. One of the downsides, and I'm going to sound like those old cranky people on the running forums, one of the downsides of wavelight and time trial style racing and everything is that there's a little bit of a reduction in just racing tactics throughout the year. You're getting these really fast races where all these races have multiple rabbits and the pace goes out so hot that there is no bunching up on the Diamond League circuit anymore. There's just not. Every race is a world record attempt in some capacity, or a national record attempt, or an Olympic standard attempt. And it's just single file, get in line. Let's see what your fitness and toughness is. But it's not about pack racing. Indoor has more of that, but a lot of the pros skip indoor. Mm-hmm. So if you look at who's done really well in championship races lately, it's people who've come through the NCAA system. Now, there's also the other side. There's just the freak genetic people who just run away from it. But NCAA athletes are doing very well at world and Olympic championships. And it's because no one races more than collegiate athletes. So at some point, it will be on the athletes to say, I'm running indoor this year. I'm getting into some track meets where I'm not running a wavelight race. I'm going to jump into something else. And I'm just going to work on my tactics for a bit. Get used to running in chaos.
It's a good point about the NCAA athletes. They sure are showing up in spades. At least for the most part, it's pretty much every NCAA athlete up to this point has performed equal to or outperformed expectations. Even Graham Blanks in the 5,000 meter trials, he's gone through, right, and looked comfortable doing it. It's a good point about just being used to being shoulder to shoulder and toe to toe and in tight packs all the time. Didn't think about that point, but that makes a lot of sense. And all these athletes generally, like, you're right, the Diamond League circuits, these big, Prefontaine Classic, I guess that is a Diamond League race, but there's always a pacer. It's get in line and hang on and see how fast we can run, because that's what it's about. You got to hit the Olympic standard, right? So all these guys are just doing that. Mm-hmm. They get one shot at their country's trials, so they are racing. They're racing at the trials, but in a very diluted field compared to the Olympics. So that bunch becomes, 3 or 4 guys instead of 15, and it's still more manageable. So that's probably a good point. I mean, of course it falls on the athletes. It's still going to be an unfortunate byproduct of this type of racing. And I don't remember, maybe it's just because we pay so close of attention these days because we have a podcast about it. We're very invested in our sport. But I don't recall this many falls. I don't recall this much drama. I don't remember, like, a DQ in the 5K then to be retracted because of, an arm grab. It's interesting to sort out. So it's like, maybe nothing needs to be done and this is the way it is and that's fine, but it's worth a conversation.
Yeah, in the past there were falls, but they were noteworthy when they happened. We had Morgan Usini for a while. She was America's top 1,500 meter runner for a while, and she was notorious for having 2 or 3 falls in her career. They all happened at major events, like World Championships, Olympics, and trials or something like that. But they were noteworthy when they happened. Now, I would bet that you and I couldn't name everyone who's fallen in these races.
No, for sure not.
Because there's so much of it. It's commonplace. Like what, 5 people fell in one heat of the 5,000? I'm already moved on from the guy who missed the hurdle barrier in the steeplechase. Like that's already faded to that would have been just the headline at the last. Yeah. Like maybe 2 Olympic cycles ago that someone had an issue. And now it's folded in. There's just so many more than there used to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you think, I've already mentioned like Mohamed, right? On the podium, in a qualifying spot, in the home stretch, falls, right? Okay. And then you have Abdi Nur, Northern Arizona alumni, the only guy who gave Grant Fisher a run for his money in the 5K. Abdi Nur went with Grant Fisher, or it was the 10K. I don't even remember which one he declared in, but Abdi Nur was the only one who could hang with Grant Fisher when the racing got real. Abdi Nur, in a qualifying spot, in the rounds in the 5,000, falls in the final stretch. He was one of those, 4 or 5 guys, I don't remember, in that one pile-up. Mm-hmm. They don't choose Abdi Nur. They don't choose Mohamed from Canada. And they choose one guy who literally walked off the track when he fell. The guy just walked off the track. He's a DNF. He's like, F it. He was having his pity party with not the resume that Abdi Nur or Mohamed have, but because he was an, in quotes, innocent bystander of the fall, he's through, right? He was a DNF. He's the only guy who DNF'd that race. Now he's in the finals. And because he was behind those guys and innocent, didn't trip on anybody, didn't clip a heel, didn't bump an elbow, he just literally ran into people that were on the ground and fell. He's through. 2 medal contenders are not through. I just wonder how that governing body, that system, there has to be steadfast rules that we don't know. Maybe those rules are on the internet we could find. But how are those decisions made? I'm super curious. And of course, biased. I want to see Abdi Nur. Right. I want to see Abdi Nur, an American, go through and have somebody else to root for in the final. So I have no answers. I have only questions. The committee. What's the committee process?
It's behind closed doors. That's one of the downsides of this. So it's frustrating. You never want to see officials decide any competition. And this is interesting, me watching this now, because one of my biggest issues with Braden's karting, people are probably getting sick of me talking about this.
Well, there's only going to be more of that,
has
folks.
Nothing to do with ours, but
we talked about karting for 10 minutes before we started recording.
More. That's right. I'm in it now. Is that it's one of the only sports, motorsports is one of the only sports where they don't give you any leniency when bad things happen to you. Football, if you are wronged, most often, they will penalize the other team, but the penalty helps you. Basketball, if you get fouled, they stop the play. They give you an opportunity to shoot free throws to make up your missed opportunity, and they penalize the other person, and then you move on with the play. Track and field, if you fall, there's an opportunity to advance you back up in the results. In racing, the biggest penalty that can happen is that the other person gets in trouble, but you're still out. Your cart's still broken. You're still out. They don't advance you ahead. There is no appeals process you can appeal, but it's only to hurt the other person.
Right.
Like if you want to file an appeal, it's to bring them back a spot. You can't move yourself up a spot. So the fact that track even has the opportunity where if you're in a pileup, you can move through, that's like a huge get out of jail free card. From my perspective now, sitting in a sport where you don't have that, it's crazy that you even get the chance. Like you didn't finish, but we're going to say you should have, so you're through. So it's great that they have it, but the process is behind closed doors. They'll come out and inform you of their decision, and they don't have to do anything else after that point. They can just, not even review it. They could sit back there and say, nah, we're not even going to bother, and then come out and tell you, yeah, we reviewed it. There's no oversight to the process. So the process is cool that it exists, but it sucks that you don't know how it goes.
And the thing, we could gripe about that, but it's the very thing that makes the Olympic Games so damn special and so exciting. Right. And underdogs win every year in something. Somebody who shouldn't be on the radar at all goes home with a medal or a gold medal. Somebody who's a shoe-in for the win takes 10th. And it's like, it's something about the games and that, roll of the dice sometimes that brings us back. It's part of the excitement. So should it change? I don't know. To the beneficiary of this 5,000, in which I think 6 total people fell between the 2 rounds or something like that, is like Graham Blanks for the United States, Harvard runner, took 4th at the U.S. Olympic trials. Shouldn't have even been on the team, some would say. Parker Wolf earned that 3rd spot. Graham Blanks shouldn't even been toeing the line, and now he's in an Olympic final because couple people fell. He ran well anyways. He would have got in regardless. The system is the way it is. Graham Blanks, who didn't take top 3 in the trials, ends up in an Olympic final because of, hard work, of course, but like the magic of the Olympics and the anything can happen and the rooting for the underdog. So like Graham Blanks is sitting there feeling fine. Graham Blanks and Grant Fisher being our 2 in the 5,000 meter final, like, would you have said, the 2 out of, it's going to be these 2? No, you would say Grant Fisher, but then the next would never have been Grant Blanks, and here we are. Yeah. So it's fun to chat out.
It is, and it's everything. Not everything makes sense, but the whole Olympic experience is encapsulated by the idea that not all the best people are even allowed to be there. As soon as we come to grips with that, then everything else is kind of like, okay, cool, I accept the free-for-all because you only get 3 people for your country. Like the United States, prior to the Olympic trials, and I may have said this stat on here, but prior to the U.S. Olympic trials, the United States had 14 of the 20 fastest 400-meter women on the planet. Not 3 of the women ran 14 of the 20th fastest times. Individual performances. We had either 13 or 14 of the 20 best athlete marks of the year. Worldwide, only 3 get to go through in the individual. So you have 11 people sitting here like, I could maybe make the Olympic final, who didn't even get to make our team. If you look at the marathon, when Galen Rupp won his marathon medal in Rio,
silver.
I believe between Kenya and Ethiopia, there was something like, between Kenya and Ethiopia, I think there was something like 79 athletes faster than him. Faster than his PR leading into it was like 50 and 30 or something like that. Like he wouldn't have finished, if it was just a list of PRs, he wouldn't have made the top 30 in either country, but he went and got top 3 at the Olympics. Now, that's inherently unfair, right? The fact that they had 50 athletes sitting at home like, well, I've run 8 minutes faster than the Olympic standard, and I've beaten every single person in that final other than my teammates, but I don't even get to go there. And now some guy who has a 6-minute slower PR than me just got a medal. So it's not a fair playing field, and by it being not fair, it's fair.
Right.
If that makes any sense. Only 3 are allowed. Every country just send your best and see what happens. And so there's just chaos at these kind of things. And I think that's kind of what makes it so special. But it always sucks for the person who loses out on that.
And there will always be people that lose out on that. And there will always be people being like, oh my God, I got here. Oh my God, I got in. Oh my God, I'm really here. I shouldn't be here, but I am here. It's going to be both sides. And to clarify, Brakken was saying 8 minutes and 6 minutes. I think he meant 8 seconds and 6 seconds because 8 minutes gap in a 5K would be, or 10K would be very big. I don't think.
No, I was talking the marathon.
Oh, the marathon. Okay. I was like, that's.
Yeah, Galen's marathon.
You were talking the marathon.
Where Kipchoge won.
I thought you were talking, he was like the 70.
Ethiopia and Kenya.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah. Maybe I misspoke, but yeah, each year, if you look at the world rankings list at the end, you can sort by country, and Ethiopia and Kenya put dozens of athletes ahead of our fastest marathoner, and yet every year at World or Olympic Championships, one of our men or women is up fighting for the medal. Mm-hmm. And it's the coolest Olympic moment, but it only occurs because they're only allowed to send 3. They could send 59 if they went by Olympic qualifying standard, but they only get 3.
And that's why you wonder these small countries with very small populations and not great governing bodies for sport have nobody, right? Like, it's not like, we'll just throw Ghana one as a bone, right? It's like, no, they didn't make the standard, so they're not there. So that it's interesting because one country can be saturated. They have too many athletes qualified meeting the standard, and then you have most countries which have nobody really meeting the standard. How many Hungary athletes were in the 1500 final, right? For example, it's like, well, none. Maybe there was. I should look at that. But okay, last two things. We need to chat about the 5,000 meter women's final, and then we should just try to make, as of this, okay, just to cover our butts, it's Thursday morning. So you may be listening to this after some of these upcoming finals have happened, thinking we know things, but we don't, right? You're listening to this after we've recorded it. So I want to make some predictions to see how good we are. But let's talk about the 5,000 meter final quick on the women's side. Faith Kipyegon got disqualified. Has she run the fastest time in the world this year, Faith Kipyegon?
She's their world record holder.
Okay, world record holder.
And I believe the fastest time in the world this year.
She's the world record holder in the 1500 as well. Doesn't win, right? She takes second, had a great race, but ultimately couldn't outkick Sergey. Who won? Somebody won. That wasn't.
I thought it was Sergey.
Kipyegon. Anyways.
Hassan was third.
Hassan ran in the back for 2 miles of that race, and then in one stretch went from last to
Chebet.
First.
Beatrice Chebet.
So anyways, but what happens with about 2 laps to go is Sergey sort of makes a tight move on Kipyegon. The pack's bunched up. They're just sort of getting ready for their kick, right? It's ratcheting down now, and you can tell it's getting serious. And Sergey bumps Kipyegon's shoulder on the home stretch, so they have just over 2 laps to go. Hits Kipyegon just a little bit and bumps her towards the infield, like the rail, we'll call it. And Sergey throws her elbow out, like, come on, Sergey, or Kipyegon, like she did anything wrong. And then Kipyegon hooks her arm around Sergey's arm and pulls her back, being like, are you kidding me? And they both look like they would call each other the C word in the moment. Their faces were disgusted and they were enraged, right? So Sergey initiates contact with Kipyegon. Then Kipyegon's like, F you, B, grabs her by the arm, brief, right? Half a second, just enough to pull her shoulder back. They run, Sergey fades. Kipyegon ends up charging home, taking second. They cross the finish line, and they say, Kipyegon, you're DQ'd. Italian athlete, congratulations, you're now on the podium. Right? Then Kipyegon disputes it with the committee. They go back, watch footage. Then they have to say, hey, Italian girl, I'm sorry. You're actually not going to get to stand on the podium anymore. We changed our mind. Kipyegon, we've honored her positioning, and she is not DQ'd for her looping her arm around Sergey and pulling her back. I just want you to make sense of that for me. Talk me through that. Was it the right decision?
I can't.
Was it not? What do you think?
Putting aside whether I think someone should be DQ'd or not, it was the worst handling of the Italian athlete that they could have done.
Oh, and she wasn't even talked about.
You cannot make announcements. You can't make announcements until you are absolutely sure that your decision is ironclad. You knew there was going to be a dispute. You knew there was going to be a protest. The initial protest was from Sergey's camp, and they're like, yep, we're good. Disqualified. Announce it. Like, you didn't think they were going to counter protest? I don't know why you would. They wrecked that girl's Olympic experience.
They didn't disqualify Sergey. It was only Kipyegon with the initial disqualification.
Sergey's camp was the one who protested.
Oh, okay.
And so they upheld that. They disqualified Kipyegon and then announced it on on the big board on the loudspeaker while this Italian woman is sitting there on the track, and she bursts into tears, and and then they ruined it. She would have been so happy with 4th place because it was the race of her life.
It was the
and
race of her
instead
life.
they ruined it.
Ugh.
It's just a mishandling of the situation.
It's like
Terrible.
It's like Ryan Woods and OCR all over again. It's terrible. Unbelievable. Speaking of Ryan Woods, he did run a race last weekend, took 11th place. Welcome back to the sport, Ryan.
Yes, he did.
So what do you make? What's
back?
He's back. What's the right call there? I can't. First of all, I felt like injustice for Kipiegan. I was like, come on, like I only watched it real time and I saw some scuffling, but it looked like Segay was at fault, not Kipiegan. Then they slow it down and they're like, oh, she did hook her. She impeded her progress minimally, but to what avail, we don't know. And so I think it would have been better off left completely. You don't do that until it doesn't need to be announced immediately. Go back and suss it out.
Yeah.
And if you want to retract her 2nd place an hour later after the footage has been reviewed and yada yada, but just interesting on that level, such a split decision would be made on such like a split decision moment in the race, right? It's just interesting.
Yeah. You have all the time in the world. The ceremony for the medals is way far into the future. You have all the time in the world. Now, my personal take is that this has been one of the more polarizing DQs I've ever witnessed.
Okay.
People are one side or the other. There were a lot of people saying, and even people I personally know and usually think are pretty smart, saying that was the worst DQ I've ever seen. Absolute BS. I thought, no. She reached out and grabbed someone's arm and yanked on it. That's an automatic disqualification. Mm-hmm. It's such a blatant non-running motion that it's inexcusable. Mm-hmm. Did it change the race? I don't think so. But it doesn't matter. Like if you were a coach and one of your athletes had their arm grabbed and yanked during a race, you would expect that person gets disqualified. Now, the downside is that clouds it. It's the Olympic final with the world record holder and reigning Olympic champion at the front of the field. And then the person who was yanked now faded off the podium, and the yanker got beat, but still got 2nd place. Like it's a hard situation to navigate, but I'm one of those people that will be disagreed with by a lot of sports fans out there that I don't believe officiating should change based on this situation. I think a penalty in the first 10 seconds of a game should still be a penalty in the last 10 seconds of the game. I think someone grabbing someone's arm and yanking it off the line is the same as Olympic final with 2 laps to go. Yeah, I think she should have been DQ'd. I do. But I also would have been okay if nothing happened. And I also would have been okay if she was DQ'd and then reinstated. But what I'm not okay with is announcing to the 4th place finisher that she is now a bronze medalist and then yanking it away afterwards.
What they need is a repechage round for all these fallers, all these infractions, and say, Faith, you know what, you've been DQ'd, but here's the deal. You get to go time trial now. If you can run faster than the winner, great, you can have it back. Something ridiculous like that. All you fallers, let's go have a repeat.
Yeah.
That's not realistic, but I don't think there's a good answer for it. It's just
no, but
it's just like
there's one good answer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what's the answer? Let's go.
It's a bad answer, but if one of them tests positive, our Italian woman gets her medal, and all's right in the world. Right. You don't hope for it. It's bad for the sport, but she almost deserves it.
Well, maybe you need to sneak something into Kipiegan's Cheerios or something, and then get Wada over there drawing blood. How about that?
Don't think I need to.
All right, that might be extreme. All right, and then the events that are left, correct me if I'm wrong. Men's 800, this is off the top of my head, so I may miss something. Men's 800, men's 5,000, women's 1,500, the marathon. If we're talking distance
women's
events.
10K.
Oh, yeah, women's 10K. That'd be the other one. We have 5 events then. Let's walk through them shortest to longest. So we have the men's 800. What are your predictions?
Ooh.
Does Hopple get a medal? First question.
Prediction. I think he does.
You do.
I think he does. I think he's that good. I think he's been the best 800-meter runner in the world over the last 3 years. not at any given point throughout the last 3 years, but if you take a look at the last 3 years of 800-meter running, I think he's been the best on average. The problem for him, other than World Indoors where he decimated people this year, there's always been some high flyer or two that has just come out and shocked people and then faded off. The 800's kind of notorious for this, but right now it's happening again. Suddenly there have been a slew of outrageously fast times run, and consistently by two individuals who just keep running really, really fast. So my worry for Bryce is that we're going to have a historically fast 800-meter final, and he's going to be hanging on. And he's such a strong finisher that he needs some like sort of momentum going in towards the finish. And that's hard if you're getting run away from. I still think he gets it done. I don't think they will all run well. My hope is that they're all so fast and confident that they run foolishly. And he just zooms around and takes this thing. But there are some outrageous, the sport of, or the 800-meter event has changed in the last 2 months more than any event has changed maybe in my lifetime.
You think about the world record holder, Rhodesia, I think, is still holding it, 141 and change. How many Olympics did he run in? Wasn't he a flash in the pan? I mean, he had a good run. It burned hot and fast, and he went away. Your argument about Hoppel being consistent. Now, Hoppel did shat the bed in the last Olympic cycle, if you remember. He didn't even make the team, I think. He had a tough go, right? But since he's been fast. Is it the Algerian?
140.91.
140.91. My goodness. What was my point? Is it the Algerian athlete, the Moroccan athlete, the favorite?
Moroccan.
I mean, he's just, when he decides to flip the switch, it's over. And I think if you have a fresh Hobbs Kessler, he has a chance at being an outside shot for a medal, but he's got, 6 races in his legs, 5 races in his legs.
Yeah.
Tough go. The kid continues to impress me. There's 5 men in the field that have run under 144, 6 men in the field, more, 143 and change.
143.
There's a couple that have run 142.
I think under 143.
The Moroccan, right?
It's suddenly
you'd have
for a while here. If you could run 143,
you
were a medal threat for like 3 since Rhodesia. If you ran 143, you were a medal threat and could win it. And now suddenly, just in the past 2 months, you have to run 142. That is a very big shift all of a sudden.
So fast. All right, so predictions.
A note on David Rhodesia, though. Mm-hmm. He won the World Junior Championships in 2006. He won the Diamond League in 2010 and 11, World Championships in 2011 and 15, and the Olympic Games in 2012 through 2016. So he won his first Diamond League in 2010 and his last Olympics in 2016. So he has probably the longest stretch of dominance we've seen. And since then, it's just been like up for grabs. Every year someone comes out. We had Marcus Arope last year come out of nowhere. We just have people that just keep popping up and winning titles and leaving. And Bryce has been the most consistent.
So you think Bryce on the podium, yay or nay? I am going yay. He still has legs. He hasn't had to use it. He's coasted in the final strides of his rounds. So I think he still has that match left. Mm-hmm. I'm worried Hobbs Kessler had to use a match in the 1500 final, and he had to use a match to qualify through the rounds. I think he's just one match short at this point, and it's no fault to his fitness. I think it's just the byproduct of the rounds. So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say he gets on, and then what happens after that? The Moroccan is the heavy favorite, I think, and then who knows? We have 3 Americans in the final. Our American, Wilson or Miller, got through in the Repechage round, so he's in.
It's incredible, and yet I feel for him.
He's going to be so done when the gun even just goes off.
But he's in an Olympic final.
Yeah. Put that on your Instagram bio. All right. Up and distance, women's 1500. The question has to be asked.
Based on how this year's going, based on how this Olympics is going, Nikki Hiltz is going to win a medal.
Really?
Yeah.
Based on
that's my take.
Based on only the fact of let's talk about how this year is going specifically, this Olympic Games in a vacuum.
Yeah. Nikki has been on a different level this year, and historically could kick really well off a 4-minute pace or 4:04 pace. This year, Nikki's closing off 3:57 pace. Nikki has made that jump that Cole has kind of made, where don't have to be in the race only when it's slow. Now, just up in the race always, and the kick's there. And this seems like the type of race where it's going to get out just hot enough to string the field out, but keep people in it. And then the favorites in that situation, when you're leading and you don't drop people, you don't have your nasty kick. And so I believe Nikki kicks into a medal. That's my bold prediction.
I feel like that's bolder.
And I believe that Ellie does not.
And I feel like that's bolder than saying Hocker kicks into a medal. I think that's more of a stretch.
For sure.
Okay, so you agree with that. I'm going to take a different take, and I mean this, not to just argue for the sake of arguing. I don't think you're right. So we're going to have to see this play out. I think if it goes as such, you have to remember Nikki Hiltz ran 3:55 in the Olympic trials. A tired Purrier St. Pierre ran 3:55 high or 3:56 low after the 5K. And she chose to forego the 5K at the Olympics in order to be fresh and ready in the 5,000 or in the 1,500. And so I think it goes out hot. I think, oh my God, now she's slipping her name's slipping my mind. Kipyegon. I think that race is to be won initially by a hot pace. I don't think it's going to sit around. Jessica Hull has proven that she can hold on, so it's going to go out hot. There's going to be another Kenyan or Ethiopian in the crew. Purrier St. Pierre is going to attach herself immediately. She's going to be on the train. Mm-hmm. Nikki Hiltz is going to let the gap form because she's not in 350 shape. Outside chance that St. Pierre is in better shape if they were to time trial the 1,500 than Nikki Hiltz. And so if I think our American chance is St. Pierre will commit to the pace. She's not going to leave it up to chance. And that will give her the opportunity to do something big. And so I think it comes down to like Kipyegon, Hull, probably another African or two. We're not because they'll commit, right? The Africans commit. And St. Pierre, and I think Hiltz will be the Hawker sixth.
Aragawi or something.
Yeah, she'll be the Hawker sixth place, kicking from 8th or 9th into 6th place to finish. That's what I think is going to happen to Hiltz. I'm rooting for her.
Okay.
Or as they say on air, I'm rooting for them or they, whatever you want to say, which the announcers have been. Have you noticed how good in particular they've been with the announcing? Not one announcer has slipped up and said Nikki Hiltz is her. It's been they and them from the start. Right. Not one.
Because Kara Goucher got roasted the one time she missed, and she has not missed since.
So here we're saying she, but you take it as it is, So that's my prediction. So it'll be fun to see what happens there.
Yeah, and you're right. So if I kind of think the same thing as I thought in the 1,500, that Ingebrigtsen either wins and takes second or misses the podium. I see that with Ellie St. Pierre. She's either going to win or take second, or she's going to miss the podium entirely and fade because she's going to go with it. I think she and Jess Hull are going to do that, and there's no debate on that. They're so fit and they're so tough. They will not let it go. And that's either going to put them right into it where when Kipyegon fades, they go, or because they won't give an inch, they're going to go out too hard, and Nikki will attach to the back of that group. And so Nikki will either get run away from, detach too much, or will be the freshest of that front group when the kicking starts. So that's why I'm just risking it. The way this Olympics has gone, I think she's going to be the freshest of the people who went after it. I think everyone's going to be so tough that they might run themselves out of it.
She'll have to close any gap immediately.
Even Cole. Cole ran great, but he wasn't right on them.
He did close a gap.
He was the freshest of the kickers. He went
to happen. When he needed to close a gap, he's like, it's got to be now, and he did.
He went around Nagoose on the backstretch with like 2:40 to go, but he wasn't top 4, top 5 to start the lap, and that's how I think Nikki's going to have to do it. Okay. If you have just like an ounce more energy suddenly you have 100% more energy when the kicking starts.
And we have 3 Americans in the final. The other one, I'm forgetting her name. She's a little taller stature. She had to run the race of her life to get through. So I'm Mick. Yeah. What's her name? She had to. All those girls had to like sort of ugly run reach. Mackay. She won't be a factor. But glad she made it.
I love watching her run.
Why?
She runs like an athlete.
Yeah, like an athlete, like a ball sport athlete.
She's not the stereotypical distance form. Yeah, she runs like a ball sport athlete. She runs like a high school stud who's newer to running but has been crushing everyone in every other sport. She just looks like if you made them do something else during the race, she'd be better than everyone at it. I love her form.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with that as well. I had an athlete of mine that I coached text me and say, can you reach out? Can you, like, since you have a check mark, can you sneak in her inbox for me and connect us? Because I got a crush on her. I'm like, no, I don't. I can't play Cupid here. My check mark is not worth anything. Trust me. I reach out to every...
Yeah, that's not how it works.
I reach out to every Olympic trials athlete possible, and I get ignored. Why do you think they're not on the podcast, folks? You think I don't try?
For interviews, to be clear.
Yeah,
not for dates.
Not for dates. Okay. So then we have the men's 5,000 next.
A sidebar here. We have brought up Colleen once already and Pete this episode. The way they started dating is he sent a friend at a football game their freshman year up into the stands to say, hey, my friend wants to know, like, if you want to hang out with him or whatever. And she said, you can tell him to come back and ask himself.
Is that what she said? Colleen.
Yep. That's Colleen in a nutshell right there. But the fact of the whole, will you reach out for me? And come on, that's not working.
It was tongue in cheek.
You got to saddle up yourself.
It was tongue in cheek slightly. You know.
No, I got you.
Yeah. Well, Colleen made Pete grow some balls. My parents met at the rope swing at the lake cabin. Met at the rope swing, and apparently
they both reached for it at the same time.
I don't think there were many people around. And then, I mean, they're divorced now, so this love story doesn't end well. But they met at the rope swing up north.
They had an excellent byproduct of that marriage.
They really did. A real mensch. All right. Men's 5,000. What do you think?
It's a slaughter. Cheptegei and Kiplimo, I believe, are the two. Both pulled out of the 5K.
Yeah, that's right.
The day after the 10K, they both pulled out of the 5K.
I said I'm toast. They were happy. They did what they wanted.
I believe it was those two. Anyway, 2 of the top 4 athletes there pulled out of the 5K. I think Jakob would have won the 5K no matter who shows up. I think that he is more primed to run a fast 5K or 10K and a championship version with a kick than anyone else there. He has the highest lactate threshold and he has the fastest 1,500 meter time. I don't think you can beat that with his calmness and tactics in a championship race. I don't think he can lose. I mean, he can. Anyone can lose, but I think they're all afraid of him in the 5K, and they should be. I think he's going to decimate people whenever he decides to go.
Do all the contenders have a race in their legs already, too? Like, is anybody fresh of the true contenders that haven't run the 10 or the...
I think everyone's done one.
Out of other, I mean, the true contenders. You can name people who didn't do other events, but... And you know the interesting thing is this is what happened at the last 2 World Championships, Brakken. Jakob Ingebrigtsen goes and says, I'm the best in the 1,500. I am going to run outright because I'm the best. I am going to run hard from the front. And it's his 3 now in a row. He's lost 3 in a row running that way. And the last 2, this 5K is yet to be determined. He's like, that didn't work. I'm going to choose. I'm not going to run myself and get past. I'm going to sit and I'm going to strike. I think he took the lead with 50 meters to go in the last 5K World Championships. Now he's like, well, that didn't work. And so I'm going to go and play it safe. And he is proclaimed to be sick, I think last year and maybe the year prior as well. Like I picked up a bug. I shouldn't even be racing. And he still pulled it off. And so it's like the same script is going to have to write itself, right? Like he's going to have to just bide his time. It's amazing the lack of confidence in his finish in the 1,500, which causes him to run hard out of the gates, and then his reliance on his finish in the 5K to help him win the only 2 world championship he's had in the last 2 years. It's almost it's ironic, but I think it's the way it has to happen. And you can't outrun the field on tired legs. I don't think you can do it. I think if the race is a 12:45 race, maybe Jakob doesn't win. But what's it going to be, a 13:0 race? And they'll kick home and take it?
I don't know. I mean, he's run, what, 12:48? 2 years ago? I don't see a path to victory other than for him to be more out of shape or fatigued than we know. But yeah, it's ironic that in the 1500 he just runs into a speed limiter, and then he bumps up triple the distance, and he's the fastest person there. And he makes it look crazy, the difference between himself and everyone else. And every time he runs a 5,000, I always think, man, if you just went to the 5K, 10K, I think you go down in history as the best runner ever. He now has a 3:26 1500 meter. He has time. He has a 3:26 1500. And now if he adds some 5,000 and 10,000 golds to that, and maybe a record, he might just go down as a top 2 or 3 runner ever across the board. But his insistence on being the best ever at the 1500 is delaying his dominance up there. And now he's starting to have injuries for the first time. And this one this year was an Achilles partial tear. Or like there's different rumors on how it was, but it was Achilles injury. And you start to, the people who have had that, oftentimes that's the kiss of death for them. Evan Jager never came back. You start to see people, they just are never the same. Galen Rupp never came back from his Achilles, really. So who knows what he can do, but I believe the 5K is just going to be a slaughter the moment I think we're going to see him gesturing to the crowd and weaving in and out and getting water, like just having a Sunday stroll in the park until he decides the moment he wants to race, everyone will be dropped.
I find myself strongly rooting for him because I respect him.
Yeah.
The way he races, I respect. He can run his mouth. Kerr has as well. Like, I don't care. I enjoy that banter in the sport. It gives me more of an investment. Like, other than Grant Fisher, who I think will land on the podium as well. I think Grant's going to double medal. I'm rooting for Jakob. I can't help myself. I like the guy. I like it the way he races. I like that he isn't afraid to grab races by the balls, and he lost. He fell short the last 3 years. It's the first time he didn't land on the podium, but I respect it. I respect it, and I want to see him do well. So I'm hoping you're right. For the sake of time.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, we're done.
Well, I said when we started this episode, I said, Brakken, can we keep this to an hour and a half? And now we're at way over that, and we still have 2 quick races to talk about. Women's 10K. Talk to me.
This one's very interesting to me because I believe the best 10K runner on earth is Safan Hassan. But she's also running the marathon a few days later, and she's already run the 5K. She's the most ridiculous triple. And I don't know if it will affect her, but it certainly complicates things. In theory, Gide should never lose a race in her life. Mm-hmm. She's just the best runner I've watched run a 10K ever.
She runs with absolute authority machine. Too, doesn't she?
But
she's just scary.
Yeah. But she is the ultimate one gear athlete. She's just not a big kicker. And that hurts in championship races. So we'll see who has developed their kick over. I mean, who has done the Grant Fisher thing, the Cole Hocker thing, who has gotten themselves ready for this race versus who is just in phenomenal shape. So I really don't know. I have almost no predictions other than it's going to be, I think, like a multiple lead, wild, exciting 10K.
We have Krista Schweitzer, Parker Valby, and who is our third U.S. athlete? Oh, my gosh.
I'm going to have to look up.
We're not as good as we think we are.
You continue on. I'm looking up.
Well, I think the question is Schweitzer already has, the 5K in her legs, I think? Or the 5K in her legs, right? She went in both.
Yeah.
So she may be a little bit compromised. My main question is just, is Valby is Valby going to do Valby things and just attach and commit herself to the pace early, which she's going to. She's not going to rely on a kick. So are we going to see a Valby attach on to whatever the pace is, even if she's over her head? And will she discover a new, she's led the trials, Brakken. She led the 5K and the 10K against world-class athletes and drug them around. She's never been drug around early. Not once in her career. Can you think of when Parker Valby's been drug around in the last 3 years? She went from the gun in everything she's run. She's never latched onto anybody and just gone in any race that I can recall in years. So this is her one chance, her first chance to go latch on from the gun. And for that, I don't know what she's going to do with it. And so it'll be interesting. She's outclassed, of course, by PR standards by 25 seconds or 20 seconds. Actually, just less, 15 to 20 seconds. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. But I really want to see that play out because she's going to commit. When are the wheels going to fall if they do? The way she runs tells me that she'll be in it until she's not, if at all. And that's going to be it.
Yeah, my excitement is we're finally going to see her taken to her absolute limit. And not because someone started kicking. It's going to be because someone ran away from her for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. Like, we saw it in the 5K. Cranny, St. Pierre, they just ran away from her. Even Schweitzer ran away from her.
Yep.
But that was 400 to go? 500 to go? Mm-hmm. It was different. We've never seen her run away from halfway through a race. And we'll get to find out what is her current ceiling. I don't think we've ever known that about her. And so, no, I don't think she can make it through to the end. But maybe she can. We don't know, and that's exciting. Very rarely do you get to a championship and not really know what an athlete's capable of. We don't know with her. Because the way she runs and her personality and the style of competition, we've not seen what she actually can do.
She's not going to sit and kick. What if?
I'm looking up the start list.
What if it's a slow start and we have them running, 15:30 pace? Is Valby going to go to the front and be like, well, like her MO, like she just cannot be patient? Because she could. Will she? I don't know. But it wouldn't put it past me to see Valby leading the Olympic race if it's, 30 seconds slower than her PR, which would be wild to see. But I don't think she cares who else is there. So she's another one I got a lot of respect for it, the way she runs.
Yeah, I think she's going to run off the line at the pace she intends to race at. And if that takes her into 20th place or if that takes her into first, she's going to do that.
Yeah. Who's the other athlete? You were looking at the start list. Who's the other American? I feel bad.
Didn't find it.
I
have a hard time scrolling through my phone and listening to you. I don't multitask that well, so I'm highly ineffective on my phone.
Somebody's screaming at us right now, being like, it's so obvious. It was this person.
Yeah. Listen, we're 2 hours deep into getting all hyped up over track and field. We're just making mistakes at this point.
Then the marathon, I think that's the last thing we have to address, men and women's side. It's funny, I was at the gym this morning. I open the gym at 5:30 and get my workout in, and we have TVs that play in the background. And so I live in St. Francis, Minnesota, which is let's call it a far-reaching northern burb of Minneapolis. I'm about 40 minutes from downtown. Anyways, I train on the St. Francis high school track. It's where I go do all my track workouts. It's where I've been hitting recently. Okay. And there, the whole morning for 2 hours on our news channel is hundreds of people at the St. Francis track, the high school cheerleaders, the staff, all the people locally rooting for our hometown favorite in the marathon. So every commercial break, they're cutting to the people on the track. Every chance they get, they keep going back and forth for 2 frickin' hours on the very track I do all my workouts in, because we have an Olympian in the marathon from where I live. And the last time through, we had Emma Bates, she's only 10 minutes away in another place. So anyways, we got a local contingent in the marathon on the women's side, which has been just all over the news here in Minnesota. What's your prediction?
How long could you run with the Olympic marathon women's field? How many miles could you make it?
What do you think the run to win? 2:16?
I think it'll probably be 1 in 2:18. It's a hilly course. It's going to be hot. 2:17, 2:18, I think. Let's say 2:17:30 is the win.
10 miles, let's say. What do you think?
How many could I go? 3. At best.
Yeah. I mean, Dakota Lindworm, so that's the local Minnesota girl, ran Grandma's half. We ran Grandma's half. We were at the start line basically next to each other, and Dakota beat me by a minute and a half, something like that. So, and she's not a favorite, so I'm sure I get smacked pretty good. Yeah. Anyways, what do you think? Any U.S. contingency?
I think Emily Sisson's our best chance. I think Emily Sisson's our best chance for a top 10. But honestly, I don't know.
Why not?
The marathon is always crazy. Things always happen. But I feel like we're going to get smacked around a little bit this Olympic cycle, in the marathon.
Why not our Olympic trials winner?
Just because I think Sisson's just more seasoned. It's not that O'Keefe can't. That's her name, right?
Yeah. O'Keefe.
I want to make sure I'm...
It's O'Keefe.
Fiona.
Sure. Yeah.
Fiona O'Keefe. It's not that she can't. And maybe she will, but Sisson's just a known commodity more. And I think it's going to take, on a hilly course with heat, it's going to take every trick in the book to be up there with the best marathoners in the world.
I wish I knew more about
this.
The
fascinates me, the fact that it's hilly.
How hilly? How many?
Every time there's a hilly marathon, I don't know what the course has. I'm going to look that up. But every time we have a championship marathon with hills, a lot of people underestimate it. And it levels the playing field. So does heat. And we've shown that our nation prepares for those two things well. So even though I think we're going to get smacked around a little bit, I don't know if we have any worse chance this cycle than ever.
600-800 feet of gain and loss would be considered a pretty hilly marathon, I assume. Could be more.
The race will gain 438 meters in elevation.
Really?
436 meters. Yes.
They're climbing like...
This is what it claims.
Wow.
Claims the maximum grade is 13.5%. I don't know if I buy that. That's very steep.
Well, for people who are wondering, you're
4
talking...
days ago, Runner's World put one out.
You're talking 12 to 1,400 feet of gain over the marathon. You're talking...
1,400, yeah.
Yeah, you're talking legit. That's pretty legit. 50 feet a mile or more. That's a lot for a marathon. More than that?
Yeah, this might be the toughest one. Let's see.
I'll tell you what, I certainly wouldn't pick a course like that to go out and run a fast time or my PR. Not going to happen there. Not even close.
No.
Men's side?
In total, 1,438 feet of gain, 1,437 feet of descent is the new number.
Okay, so a wash that way, but...
13.5%.
Know who I like that favoring? Those Utah boys.
Utah boys, yeah.
Utah boys.
Yep.
All right, do you think on the men's side, do the Americans have an outside chance of top 5 even?
Yes. And
really?
The same as the women. I believe we would get smacked around. Like, I believe on the world stage, we're getting smacked around worse than we have in a while in the marathon. The marathon is just so good at the top end.
We have for years.
But
decades.
This course.
Since Frank Shorter, we've been smacked around in the marathon.
Yeah, but we saw Galen up in the lead pack. He won Chicago. We've seen him up in New York City in the pack. We've seen we've had some individuals. We've had Shalane, we've had Dez, like win majors and do big things.
But I'm talking at the world champs.
You don't really have
the
people lead
Olympic games.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. But if you put 1,400 feet of gain and drop on a course and you add heat and humidity, that is a big leveling factor. That is a crapshoot as to whether the top athletes can handle that or not. You and I have both known very high level runners. Some of them just cannot handle heat. Some of them just cannot handle hills. Some of them are the greatest runners we've ever seen, but they cannot break stride. So we're going to find out who can do what, but we know that ours can.
I'll still be watching.
So yeah, I believe we can put 2 in the top 10 on the men's side.
Clayton Murphy and, of course, Connor Mance watching that show will be very interesting because if we know anything, we know Connor's going to commit probably like he did in Chicago. I mean, he committed to the front until he fell off. He's like the Parker Valby of marathoning. He's just going to commit. He will.
Yeah.
And I respect him for it.
Yeah.
Most likely will crack because the best are minutes faster than him. But I'm just going to be, mostly I'm going to be my eyes on Kipchoge. I mean, this is it for him. I think this is his swan song. This is most likely his goodbye marathon, I'm guessing. And so I'm going to be glued to just what that man is doing. And he's going to commit too, right? Kipchoge will be in front until he's not, if he fades, or he will find a way to crack him, which isn't likely, to be honest. It hasn't looked good for him, but those are the things I'm looking forward to seeing.
2 things about Kipchoge. I guess the intro to that is that I am fascinated to watch him as well. But the 2 things are that he struggled in Boston with the hills.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't go well for him. Was that Boston or New York?
Boston. It's first time Boston. Yep.
Boston. Yeah. So he struggled with that. That's the only weakness we've ever seen him have is a blocked ear canal and hills. Those are the only 2 excuses we've ever heard out of the man. And this is going to be almost double that. So if he hasn't gone in on hills, this is the worst course he could have for an Olympic championship. The second thing is that we've never seen him line up to a marathon where the rest of the field looked at him and thought, yep, he's ripe for the picking. Never. They look at him and think, well, that sucks, but it's going to be cool to watch him run for a little bit.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking at him thinking, today is the day I beat Eliud Kipchoge. Mm-hmm. That is something you put on your LinkedIn and it stays in your Instagram profile and you hang that on your wall above your bed. Everyone thinks this is their chance to get a win over the greatest marathoner of all time.
Yeah.
And that changes everything. When he made a move in the past, half the time people didn't even bother trying to go with it because they knew what it could lead to. People aren't going to have that respect for his moves right now.
Yeah. Do you think it's his last, you think this is it, no matter how it goes?
No, I don't think so. I think it could certainly be, and I won't be shocked. But no, I think he's the eternal optimist and believer that he's about to turn it back around.
You're the eternal optimist and believer. That doesn't surprise me. I'm a realist, Brakken.
That's right.
I think whether he fades and falters, that's confirmation that I've had a great career and I'm done. And if he wins and prevails, it's a great place to stop, considering how his last year has gone. So I think it's like, I don't know how he justifies continuing no matter how it goes. Maybe second, maybe he gets out kicked in the last mile. And in that scenario where he's still there, then I could see it. But otherwise, I feel like I don't know how you would rationalize it, especially if he's like 55, like you say he is.
Well, I think 2 ways. I think 2 ways you rationalize it. The first is that when you are that outstanding, you're still going to run some good workouts. And you know how it is. You run a workout that's as good as anything you've ever run, and you're like, I still have it. I've run into some hilly courses. I've had some things. Yes, I'm aging. I didn't get it quite right, but I can still do this as well as I ever have. I think that's one. And then the second is, I think you justify it because you're getting a 6-figure appearance fee.
Oh, yeah.
London's going to call and be like, hey, are you coming out this year? We got 400,000 put aside for you. Are you saying no to that? I don't know. I think you would have to be incredibly disciplined to walk away.
You make very good points. You forget about the appearance fees, regardless as to placement. I think Nike's next super shoe is the Kipchoge, and he'll make his residuals on that, and he'll go riding off into the African sunset. That's what I think.
I just know how difficult it was for me to face reality that I'm not entering the series this year, or I'm not going after whatever. And I wasn't making really any money off it, and I wasn't famous off it. I was just a competitor. I loved to compete. And if it was difficult for me to face that, what do you do when you're the most famous, best marathoner of all time, and you've got a yearly $1 million contract or whatever it is, and you have commercials, and you have sponsors, and you have appearance fees? I just don't know how you walk away from that. Unless you are like Meb, who is totally at peace and finds other ways to stay involved and happy with. I could see Elliot doing that. 100%. Leading group runs, running a pace group at these big marathons. I could see that happening maybe, but I can't see him riding off into the sunset.
Yeah, it'll be a fun thing to watch play out. He has contingency plans, of course, an athlete like that does. Haile Gebrselassie has stayed heavily involved in his community. Seb Coe is the president of whatever, like the Diamond League, or I don't even know. His face is everywhere. So the running world. He'll find a way. I saw something on Total Running Productions on YouTube last week about how like SI Sports Illustrated came out with like the 100 best athletes of the 2000s or of all time. I think it was the 2000 since 2000 or whatever. And they left Kipchoge off. Like there's people of all varieties and a few track athletes, and Kipchoge is redefined. And they just, how disappointed it was to see that not a single distance runner was on Sports Illustrated's top 100 athletes of, I think, the 2000s or whatever. I don't remember what their time frame was, but not one. That's wild.
Yeah.
Who else would you make an argument for?
That's hard to justify.
Yeah. All right, man. This was fun. I enjoyed this.
This is what you wanted today.
I didn't think we'd do it for 2 hours.
There. If I've learned anything throughout this show, it's that we will fill the time. Every single time we're like, do you think we can make this last an hour? Do you think No, we're going to go over. We're going to go over.
Yeah, but a lot of times it's like 20 minutes of preamble of ourselves or some things that the listeners might or might not care about. This time we kind of got right to it. So it's 2 hours of the stuff. Should we quit? Should we quit while we're ahead or maybe behind? Should we be done with this thing?
Yeah, let's go watch some more Olympics.
I don't even know what finals are on today. I got to go check the schedule.
Oh, I'm not going to spoil it for you.
All right, because finals are starting to happen here soon, actually, looking at the clock. So I'm going to have to get on Peacock.
Yep.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed the Olympic banter. We'll probably follow this up by starting our Tuesday episode with just the recap of everything that happened that we didn't get to, and then we'll teach you something eventually. But you didn't learn shit today, folks, and we're not sorry.
Nope. No regrets.
No regrets. See you next week, guys.